Students, today we have to see November 2013 OS question paper, Part C. Explain in detail microprocessor and distributed system. A distributed system is a collection of processors that do not share memory, peripheral devices or a clock. Instead, each processor has its own local memory and clock, and the processor communicate with one another through various communication lines such as high-speed buses or networks. The processor in a distributed system vary in size and function. They may include small microprocessor, workstation, mini computers and large general purpose computer system. A distributed system collects physically access to various resources that the system maintains. Access to be shared resource allows computation speed up, increased functionality, increased data availability and enhanced readability. Operating system usually generalize networks access as a form of file access, with details of networking being contained in the network interface device driver. A web browser then just needs to send a request for information to a remote machine's web server, and the information like text, graphics, links to other information is returned. The increase in convenience fostered huge growth in the use of HTTP and the world in general. 21st question. Explain the various CPU scheduling algorithms. First come first serve scheduling. By far the simplest CPU scheduling algorithm is the first come first serve basis algorithm. With this scheme, the process that requests the CPU first is allocated the CPU first. The implementation of FCFS policy is easily managed with the FIFO queue. The code for FCFS scheduling is simple to write and understand. The average waiting time under the FCFS policy is quite long. Consider the following set of processes that arrive at time 0 with the length of the CPU burst time given in milliseconds. Consider an example: process P1, P2, P3, burst time 24:33. If the processes arrive in the order P1, P2, P3 and are served in FCFS order, we get the result shown in the following Gantt chart. The waiting time is 0 millisecond for process P1, 24 milliseconds for process P2 and 27 milliseconds for process P3. Thus, the average waiting time is 0 plus 24 plus 27 divided by 3 equal to 17 milliseconds. If the process arrive in the order P2, P3, P1, however, the result will be shown in the following Gantt chart. P2, P3 and P1, the average waiting time is 6 plus 0 plus 3 divided by 3 equal to 3 milliseconds. Next scheduling algorithm is shortest job first scheduling. CPU scheduling is in the shortest job first scheduling algorithm. This algorithm associated with each process the length of the latest next CPU burst. When the CPU is available, it is assigned to the process that the smallest next CPU burst. Because the scheduling is done by the examining the length of the next CPU burst of a process. So, consider the example set of process with the length of the CPU burst time given in milliseconds. Process P1, P2, P3, P4, burst time 6873. The waiting time is 3 milliseconds for process P1, 16 milliseconds for process P2, 9 milliseconds for process P3 and 0 milliseconds for process P4. Thus, the average waiting time is 3 plus 16 plus 9 plus 0 divided by 4 equal to 7 milliseconds. The next scheduling algorithm is priority scheduling. The SJF algorithm is a special case of the general priority scheduling algorithm. A priority is associated with each process and the CPU is allocated to the process with the highest priority. Equal priority processor scheduled in the FCFS order. Consider an example: process P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, burst time 10:1215, priority 3:1452. The average time is 8.2 milliseconds. Next question is deadlock avoidance algorithm with Banker's algorithm concept. A deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examines the resource allocation state to ensure that a circular wait condition can never exist. The resource allocation state is defined by the number of available and allocated resources and the maximum demand of the process. Safe state: a state is safe if the system can allocate resources to each process in some order and still avoid a deadlock. A sequence of process P1, P2 that is goes to Pn is a safe sequence for the current allocation state if for each Pi the resources Pi can still request can be satisfied by the currently available resources plus the resources held by all the Pi with j less than equal to I in the situation if the resources the process Pi needs are not immediately available. The Pi can wait until all Pi are finished. When Pi terminates, Pi plus 1 can obtain its needed resources and so on. If no such sequence exists, then the system set is unsafe. Resource allocation graph algorithm. In addition to the request and assignment edges, we introduce a new type of edge called a claim edge. A claim edge Pi indicates Rj that the process Pi may request to resource Rj at some time in the future. The edge resembles a request edge in direction but is represented by a dashed line. Banker's algorithm. When a new process enters the system, it must declare the maximum number of instances of each resource type that it may need. If it will, the resources are allocated. Otherwise, the process must wait until some other process releases enough resources. Available. A vector of length Rn indicates the number of available resources of each type. If available of j equal to k, k instances of resource type Rj available. Maximum, and n into Rn matrix defines the maximum demand of each process. If maximum of Ij equal to k, then the process Pi may request at most k instances of resource type Ri. Allocation, n into Rn matrix defines the number of resources of each type currently allocated to each process. If allocation of Ij equal to k, the process Pi currently allocated k instances of resource type Rj. Need, and n into Rn matrix indicates the remaining resource need of each process. If need of Ij equal to k, then the process Pi may need k more instances of resource type Ri to complete its task. Explain in detail about the concept of segmentation with need diagram. Segmentation is a memory management scheme that supports the user view of memory. Logical address space is a collection of segments. Each segment has a name and a length. The address specifies both the segment name and the offset within the segment. The user therefore specifies each address by two quantities, a segment name and an offset. For simplicity of implementation, segments are numbered and are referred by a segment number. Thus, the logical address consists of two tuples, segment number, offset. A Pascal compiler might create separate segments of the following: global variables, the procedure called stack to store parameters and return address, the code portion of each procedure or function, the local variables of each procedure and function. Hardware. Although the user can now refer to the objects in the program by a two-dimensional address, the actual physical memory is still, of course, a one-dimensional sequence of bytes. Thus, we must define an implementation to map two-dimensional user-defined address into one-dimensional physical address. The mapping is affected by a segment table. Each entry of the segment table has a segment base and the segment limit. The segment base contains a starting physical address where the segment resides in memory. Logical address space, as an example, considers a situation we have 5 segments numbered from 0 through 4. The segments are stored in physical memory. The segment table has a separate entry for each segment, giving the beginning address of the segment in physical memory. Write a short note on access matrix and its implementation. Access matrix is a security model of protection state in computer system. It is represented as a matrix. Access matrix is used to define the rights of each process executing in the domain with respect to each object. Access matrix, the ability to copy rights is denoted by an asterisk indicating the process in the domain have to write to copy that access within the same column, that is for the same object. There are two important variations. If the asterisk is removed from the original access right, then the right is transferred rather than being copied. This may be termed transfer right as the opposite to a copy right. If only the right and not the asterisk is copied, then the access right is added to the new domain, but it may not be propagated further. That is, the new domain does not also receive the right to copy the access. Access matrix with owner rights. Copy and owner rights only allow the modification of rights within a column. The addition of control rights, which only apply to domain objects, allow process operating in one domain to affect the right available in other domains. Modified access matrix. Implementation of access matrix global table. The simplest approach is one big global table with the domain, objects, rights, entries. Unfortunately, this table is very large and so cannot be kept in the memory. Access list for objects. Each column of the table can be kept as a list of the access rights for that particular object, discarding back entries. Capability list for domains. In a similar fashion, each row of the table can be kept as a list of the capabilities of the domain. Lock mechanism. Each resource has a list of unique bit patterns termed locks. Each domain has its own list of unique bit patterns. Access is granted if one of the domain keys of the resource locks. Again, a process is not allowed to modify its own keys. Comparison. Each of the method has a certain advantages or disadvantages depending on the particular situation. Task is hand.